Today, LaGuardia Airport is landing on runway 22 and departing on runway 13, and Peter Masella is going to take you with him for some great views.
Oh, hey there. Welcome back to my channel, and if it's your first time here, well, welcome. I've been reading all of the comments, and I really appreciate all the positive remarks that everyone's making. And I know you guys really like my departures out of LaGuardia, my arrivals out of LaGuardia, so today I'm gonna make another video. Today, I'll be departing LaGuardia Airport off of runway 13. And guess what? You are gonna be coming along with me again. Welcome to the city that never sleeps. It's known for business, art, its tall skyscrapers like the Empire State Building, and my favorite place, LaGuardia Airport, which is currently using runway 13 for departing flights. Soon, I'll be flying right over the area where my vehicle is now. I'm getting excited about this. That's a runway 13 departure right over there. Today's flight will be leaving from Terminal D again, and I couldn't be happier as my ride takes me through the areas where the new terminals are being built. I checked the Delta app and it shows that my flight will be leaving out of the brand new gates, so there I get dropped off in front of the new head house and take a short temporary path to the check-in area behind it. In order to get to my flight today, which is operating out of the D terminal, I need to walk around the new head house. These are exciting times at LaGuardia. All right, I've just exited the construction area. Now I'm about to enter the D terminal. Okay, I'm getting closer to runway 13. As I work my way over to the G gates in the D terminal, I came across this beautiful graphic of the new LaGuardia. My flight is actually going to be departing from these gates right over here in the new G concourse. And you can actually see some of the runway there. There's an aircraft that's actually on the runway right over there. That aircraft looks like it actually landed on runway 13 and slowed down. Today we'll be departing on runway 13. I mean, just think about it. That aircraft is close to the end of the runway. I hope it's an arrival. So a little bit about the airport's runway configuration today. As I mentioned before, runway 13 is currently the departure runway here at LaGuardia, and runway 22 is the arrival runway. The winds are coming from a direction so that it's favorable for a headwind for aircraft to land on runway 22 and for departures to depart on runway 13. I'm excited about this because I'm going to be bringing you along with me. As I walked to my gate, I paused not just to look at this A220 getting ready for takeoff, but I was able to see aircraft that just took off on runway 13 on their initial climb out. Just think that the miracle of flight will bring us to that exact airspace in a little bit. Behind me is the A320 that is going to be taking me to the Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport today. Now, I've taken this flight many times before. I'm a regular on the flight, but I try to make it exciting each time I fly. And this time, we'll be taking off on runway 13, which is going to be different. Today, I've actually chosen a seat on the right-hand side of the aircraft. The reason why is because after departure, we are going to make a right-hand turn, and we'll get some great views of the airport once we become airborne. Behind me is the area where we'll be making our initial climb. Our climb out calls for a right turn after takeoff today. Runway 13's departure end is in a noise-sensitive area just beyond the bay, and if aircraft were to fly straight out, they'd be flying over a very dense residential area, which would generate a lot of noise to those who live there. The solution is to turn right after takeoff and fly south over Flushing Meadows Corona Park, an area where no one lives, thus generating less noise complaints. While it spares the ears of Queen residents, it allows for an exciting dip of the right wing after takeoff at a low level, and that is an exciting thing. It's all about seat selection. So I want to let you know about my seat selection process for my flight today. I am sitting on the right-hand side of the aircraft, which means I'm going to get a very nice view of the airport when I take off, especially when we make that right-hand turn after departure. But the sun is also going to be setting as I take off in the western sky, so I don't want to get much sun glare on my window because that can ruin it. So better views, I'll be out the right-hand side because of sun glare. Since we'll be making lots of turns en route, we'll see the sun at first, but the subsequent turns will put the sun behind us. After we make our right turn to the south after takeoff, there are two possible turns that we can execute after that. The first is called the Whitestone Climb, which calls for a subsequent left turn to the northeast and an eventual turn to the northwest. While seated on the right side of the plane for this climb out, we will not be able to see the airport or Manhattan, but the sun will not be in our eyes after the initial turn. The other possible option after our initial right turn is to keep turning to the right to the northeast. This is called the Goldman 7 Departure RNAV procedure, and it's similar to another climb out called the Maspeth Climb. While seated on the right side of the plane, this will allow us to see the airport and Manhattan, and the sun will not be in our eyes after the initial turn. It's always hard to tell which climb out will fly in advance, but the right side allows me to see the airport's progress at low altitude, so I'm excited about that. I am ready for boarding. I'm working my way over to the gate area so I can get on my A320. Today I am not headed to the Steel City of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and the Motor City of Detroit, Michigan is also not on my agenda today. Savannah, Georgia would provide some warmth, but I'm going to Minneapolis, St. Paul, or Minneapolis, St. Paul, as the sign reads. And here's the A320 that will take me to Minneapolis today. It was delivered in 1999 to Northwest Airlines and now sports the Delta colors. Delta maintains their planes so well and... wait a second, there goes a runway 13 departure. The last time I was here, runway 31 was being used as the arrival runway, so it was nice to experience departures taking off the other way on runway 13. Okay, back to this Airbus, which looks beautiful in the sun today. There is nothing to indicate that this airplane is 23 years old. What a paint job. And soon, this bird will be on runway 13 with me on board. I just can't wait. Before we board, the captain needs to do a walk around to make sure that there's no damage to the aircraft from its recent inbound flight and taxi into the gate. This is an important safety procedure, and after seeing pilots do this, I've actually gotten into the habit of walking around my car before I get in to make sure there was no damage while parked. Flying is always on my mind. That's my seat right there, just under the TA in Delta. From here I can get a nice but distant view of arrivals on runway 22. Arrivals from the south make a right turn onto the final approach course today so they don't interfere with the airspace for departing flights off of runway 13. The gate door is now open and I'm eager to board. Alright, I am first on the jet bridge for my flight to Minneapolis, St. Paul. Runway 13, here we come. Now, I do have a little bit of glare on the window on this side, but we are expecting to turn around, so we won't get the glare on the window after departure. You're prepared. It's actually a really light load on this flight today. There are 100 empty seats. That's a lot of empty seats on an A320. If you're new to my channel, you may not know that I love the first row of aircraft seats. I often sit in seat 1A, but there's a problem with 1A. The problem with 1A is that the jet bridge often leaves marks on the window, making it difficult to see out. I don't have that problem here on 1D. The big issue is just the glare from the sun, but we'll hopefully overcome that after departure. It's kind of dark back there, but I'm the only guy that's got the window shade open. It's now time for us to listen to LaGuardia Airport information to confirm the wind and the departure runway today.
LaGuardia Airport ATIS information leads wind 95 and blue. Wind 90 heading 0. Visibility in 0. Few clouds at 25,000. Temperature 6. Dew point -7. Altimeter 3000. Remark. AO2 sea level pressure in 5 feet. ILS runway 22 approach new planned runway 22. Depart runway 3. Advise on initial contact. You have information leaving.
With the very light load today, the boarding process was really quick, and the forward boarding door was closed well ahead of schedule. And before I knew it, the A320 took its very first movement backwards by tug, so we could start the process to get on over to runway 13. This part of the airport has changed so much over a few short years. There's a completely new concourse being built where the old eastern concourse of the C terminal was, and we left from a beautiful brand new space. But it's time to leave this area so we can see it from above. So with the tug removed from the aircraft, it's now time to contact LaGuardia Ground Control for taxi clearance to runway 13.
Ground Delta 802, 519 Bravo, Lima.
Delta 802, LaGuardia Ground, 2 standby.
As we waited outside of the terminal, the ground controller let us know that we were in sequence for takeoff, but he got back to us quickly to give us instructions to taxi to the runway.
Delta 802, descend to turn runway 13, taxi Zulu Bravo, Papa, hold runway 22.
13 Zulu Bravo Papa, hold short 22, Delta 802.
To get to runway 13, we're told to take taxiways Zulu, Bravo, and Papa and hold short of runway 22. We're currently facing east, and taxiway Zulu is located at the eastern end of the airport, so we proceed in the direction that we're facing now to get to taxiway Zulu. Taxiway Zulu will be the turnaround taxiway, the taxi that will allow us to turn around and parallel the entire length of runway 13 as we work our way to the beginning of the runway. As we taxi out, we can see other aircraft that will taxi out behind us. While on taxiway Zulu, we notice the windsock, which is indicating that we will have a headwind on the takeoff roll today. Once we get to taxiway Bravo, we take it all the way down, paralleling the 7,003 feet of runway 13. Taxiway Bravo actually becomes taxiway Papa ahead, and once we're on taxiway Papa, we've been instructed to hold there because we need to cross an active runway, runway 22, which is being used for arrivals like this flight that we see here that's about to touch down. Once that airplane lands and passes through the intersection of runway 13, the tower issues takeoff clearance to a plane on runway 13. For nearly every arrival on runway 22, there's a departure on runway 13. This is a very optimal configuration for the airport since the intersection of the two runways is near the beginning of each runway. As we get closer to the runway, we're told to cross runway 22 on taxiway Papa after a flight that just landed on runway 22.
Delta 802, traffic on 3 mile final, approach runway 22 of Papa, at Golf, follow JetBlue.
22 of Papa, follow JetBlue, that's all, Delta 802.
The controller noted that there was traffic 3 miles from touchdown, which you can see as we cross the runway. And now that the intersection of the two runways is clear, the tower has issued takeoff clearance to a CRJ 900. We'll be on that tower frequency in just a moment as we follow that JetBlue aircraft that we were asked to follow as we get close to the departure runway.
802, monitor tower number 3.
As we switch radio frequencies to the tower controller, the aircraft that was on a 3-mile final when we crossed runway 22 is about to land. I'll let you listen into the tower talking to all the pilots here. As soon as that American 737 crosses the intersection of runway 13, the aircraft in position on the runway is issued takeoff clearance.
Delta 664 and 190, 13 traffic 2.5 hours, runway 13, accept takeoff.
Echo 13, Delta 64.
JetBlue 761, LaGuardia Tower 13, line of point.
Line of point 13, JetBlue 761.
And now the American 737 is told to contact ground control.
American 1457, left turn, ground point 7.
Ground point 7, American 1457.
Here's the JetBlue A320 we're following, and it's not just any JetBlue aircraft. It's called Blue Bravest, and it's painted in red to honor New York's bravest and New York's best. What is that group? It's the group of people that make up the FDNY. This plane looks remarkable in the sunlight. Just look at that shade of red. It's bound for West Palm Beach, Florida. This aircraft is waiting for clearance for takeoff as soon as the Embraer 175 on final approach to runway 22 lands. With the next aircraft 2 miles out, JetBlue was given takeoff clearance, and we're told to line up and wait on runway 13.
JetBlue 761, traffic 2 out, wind 190, 10, runway 13, accept takeoff.
Clear for takeoff 13, JetBlue 761.
Delta 802, LaGuardia Tower 13, line of point, top plane 22.
Line point 13, Delta 802.
This A320 is making room for our A320. I'm so happy I'm sitting on the right side of the airplane because I got to see this beautiful red bird take off. We are all set for departure. From this side of the plane, I have a great view of the entire runway as we turn the corner on taxiway Papa as we line up and wait on runway 13. We're waiting for the aircraft on final approach to land and be clear of our runway before we're issued takeoff clearance. Once we lift off, we'll get a great view of the new buildings, replacing the old buildings at Terminals C and D, then we'll start our right turn to the south. The question is, After flying south, will we turn to the left or right? With the next arrival touching down and additional traffic 2.5 miles out, we are cleared for takeoff.
Los 802 traffic 2.5 11909 or runway 13 for takeoff.
Takeoff 13, LA02.
American taxi 82 LaGuardia Tower 13 ground point.
Bottom away, 13, American 7.
Aircraft 5768 is 6.5 altitude.
That's 431 left time, ground point 7.
Ground point 7 for Delta 431.
Aircraft 768 LaGuardia Tower number 2 and 1909 and 22 clear to land traffic holding on 13.
22, clear to land, Aircraft 5768.
As we become airborne, we get a fantastic view of the C and D terminals. What amazing progress. We keep the wings level for a few moments, but we're about to commence the standard turn to the south as the tower controller tells us to contact the departure controller.
Los 802 contact departure.
Departure to the 802.
As we leave airport property, we climb out over a portion of Flushing Bay, but in just a few seconds, we'll be over land. As our wing dips to the right, I can't help but look back at the entire airport with all of its new buildings, as well as the runway we just took off from. Let's call departure control.
Departure 802, 1.5, climb to the Golden 7.
Delta 802, next departure to contact, maintain 7,000.
7,000, Delta 802.
Yes, this is exactly what I wanted today. The pilot called departure stating that we're going to fly the Goldman 7 departure. Sitting on the right-hand side of this airplane has paid off. We're currently heading 179 degrees and will hold this heading for 3 miles. This heading keeps us over Flushing Meadows Corona Park. This is a procedure departure, so we need to follow the published flight path, and this path keeps us over Queens for now. The major road that you see below is the Long Island Expressway. Our next turn point is called Kiwi, where we will start another right turn to 241 degrees. We dip the wing again and we can see the nearby neighborhoods of Jackson Heights, Corona, Elmhurst, Rego Park, and Forest Hills. We've been asked to climb to 7,000 feet by the controller, and our engine noise has less sound impact the higher we climb. In the distance, we can see the Bronx, and we would have flown towards the Bronx if we flew the Whitestone climb. But we do have restrictions in our speed. For example, when flying over our first 2 waypoints, Kiwi, and the next one coming up in a few miles, we're restricted to 220 knots. As we continue the turn, I think how happy I am that I chose a seat on the right side of the airplane because the sun is now on the opposite side of the airplane, and knowing that I'm in the Goldman 7 departure, Manhattan is coming up soon. And I'm also excited that I can see all of LaGuardia Airport, which is why I'm zooming into it now. As part of this procedure, we're approaching a point called Vauban, where we turn further right to a heading of 313 degrees, which is northwest, and we're being told to climb higher.
Delta 802, climb and maintain 12,000.
Climb 12,000, 802.
We are making a giant U-turn around the southern airspace of LaGuardia Airport, avoiding the airspace over Kennedy Airport to the southeast. Looking back, we can see all of Flushing Meadows Corona Park, which our initial climb took us over. The parks that you see under the wing are Forest Park and Highland Park, as well as numerous cemeteries. The southwestern part of this green area is on the Brooklyn border. We're still over a very heavily populated area. We can see most of the upper portion of the New York borough of Queens from this vantage point. Queens has a population of over 2.4 million. You can see how dense each neighborhood is. Brooklyn, of which most of it can be seen from the other side of the plane, has an even higher population. I love looking at the airport we just took off from, which is why I'm zooming in again, and if you look carefully, you can see a plane taking off on runway 13. That's one of the aircraft that was behind us. We're now at a point called Goldman, and we make a slight turn to 335 degrees, setting us up for a spectacular view of Manhattan on the right side of the plane.
02, climbing 15,000. 15,000 to 802.
We have been told to climb to 15,000 feet, just below arrivals to JFK, and we're now leaving the airspace of the first departure controller, who hands us off to the next departure controller.
Delta 802, 10 degrees right, contact 1817, good day. 1817, 10 right, to 802.
Now that is a departure. As we fly near Teterboro Airport in New Jersey, the next controller will provide clearance to higher altitudes and will clear us to our initial departure fix of Gale over Goshen, New York. We leave the Hudson River behind and proceed northwest towards upstate New York. We're only over New Jersey for a short period of time. It's a shame that so many passengers behind me had their window shades down. They don't know what they're missing, but they can always go back and watch this video. My videos provide a unique and detailed take on aviation from a passenger's point of view, so to all passengers on Delta Flight 802 and to all of you, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on my next exciting video. I am so happy that I sat on this side of the aircraft today. That was a great departure. We are now over the Monticello Sullivan County Airport as we work our way towards Niagara Falls. This map on the wall in front of me shows where we have been so far and where we're headed. We're up by Ithaca, New York, where we get a great view of the Ithaca-Tompkins Airport in Tompkins County, serving the Finger Lakes of New York. And shortly after that, we pass directly over Niagara Falls as we enter Canadian airspace. This flight unfortunately takes us directly over the falls. I wish there was a window on the bottom of this aircraft. I tried to point the camera as far down as I could, but I could not see the falls. But what made up for it was a nice but distant view of Toronto, Canada. It's always nice to see a major international city when flying on a domestic flight in the USA. It was an exciting first hour of the flight. Clouds covered much of the rest of the route as we re-entered the USA in Michigan, and once over Wisconsin, we began our descent to the Minneapolis, or Minneapolis, St. Paul International Airport. It had just snowed in the Twin Cities area, and there was a cloud cover, but the snow on the ground made for a very scenic descent as we approached runway 30 right after some small vectors from air traffic control. Thank you very much. Whoa, that was an amazing flight. I love that departure out of LaGuardia Airport. What great views. And it was a great approach to Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport too. I am now entering the terminal building here at MSP. Behind me is the A320 that I just got off of. I always need to take a look at the aircraft after I get off the airplane. Are you one of those people too? Well, that's it. The flight is now over. I had a fantastic experience on that flight today. I can't wait to do it again, and I will do it again, as you all know. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you're not a subscriber to my channel, I ask you to please consider subscribing by hitting on the subscribe button below, hit the like button, and be assured that there's going to be so much more to come. Thank you so much, everybody, and I'll see you soon.